I didn't think you had it in you.
I'm your huckleberry.
Why, Johnny Ringo, you look like somebody just walked over your grave.
Fight's not with you, Holiday.
I beg to differ, sir. We started a game we never got to finish. Play for blood, remember?
Goddamn, I really do fucking love our state.
Why is it?
Have you heard about that whole ordeal with Beyonce's song trying to be played on a radio station here?
And I've heard nothing about that.
Okay, so apparently there's some Beyonce fans that were like, hey, she's got a new song out that they want her to be played on one of the country stations here in Oklahoma.
Country station?
Yeah, and the country station keeps fucking telling people, sorry, we don't do that shit. And I'm just sitting there like, holy fuck, that's funny. And it's like blowing up. Everybody's getting pissed off about it and all this and that. But I'm just more of like, man, it's their fucking right if they don't want to play it. I mean...
Yeah.
But
it's their radio station.
Well, that's why I'm just like, where do we draw the fucking line? Because, I mean, we allow Luke Bryan to be played on fucking country stations, so...
He's a country singer.
I wouldn't go that far, but...
You're like, debatable.
He's a performer, but I'm getting off track of what we're going to be talking about today. So welcome everybody to The Calling Couple. I'm your host, Gage, along with my beautiful, lovely, wonderful co-host,
Sage.
And today we're going to be talking about a movie that we absolutely love. But before we get into that, if you've been liking our videos, leave that thumbs up. Leave a comment down below of your favorite episode or something that you have seen that you would like for us to talk about. And if you would like to have more, subscribe, hit that notification bell. And if you want to really follow us on some other platforms, you can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and also leave us a longer, in-depth conversation as an email at thecallingcouplepod, pod@gmail.com, and we will go from there. Alright, so if you have not seen this movie, please, by all means, stop now and go check it out. But I'm going to tell you what the movie is so you can stop here. It's going to be Tombstone. We're going to be talking about the 1993 Tombstone movie with a huge fucking cast selection in it. But one of the best westerns I've ever seen, and one of my absolute favorites. Now, let's go into why you should watch this film. For one, I say it is extremely accurate for being a film. Like, I rarely see... Like, you know how you can see those movies that are, like, inspired or based upon a true story or true events and all this and that. But it's, like, really stretched out and pulled from what really took place but added so much more into it. Yeah. This movie didn't. This movie is one of those genuine... Not all... Every, like... I would say about 93% of the movie is spot on, accurate for the time, the way things were going... And the actual characters. Every character was done off of a real person that was around, and they did as much research and history that they could to portray these characters. But
there, of course, as any movie though, they added things that they thought would make it more interesting, and took out things that made it more simpler. Right,
because it's still a movie. I get that. But for the characters themselves, I feel that it is very fucking accurate because, and here's what I want to tell you on this. When I was in high school, I have my history teacher show us this movie, and he made it to where everybody had to pull a name out of a hat, and whoever you got, you had to fucking do a report on and see if the movie was as accurate as it says it is. I gotta say, it is pretty goddamn accurate.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
And I got one of the characters in there that I will tell you here in a little bit of how accurate the movie did justify this person. So before we get into that part of the story, let's go ahead and talk about the star-studded fucking cast we had.
Yeah, it's an all-star-studded cast.
Do you want to list off the actors, or you want me to do that?
No, you go ahead and do that. I lost the list.
All right. So we have Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp. We have Val Kilmer as Doc Holliday. We got Sam Elliott as Virgil Earp. We got Michael Behan as Johnny Ringo. Dana Delaney as Josephine. We have Bill Paxton as Morgan Earp, and then we had Powers Booth as fucking William Brocious. We also had Billy Bob Thornton in there for a little bit as Johnny Tyler. Then we had, of course, Michael Rooker. I know a lot of guys nowadays know him from the Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that, which, I mean, he's one of the greats. Then you had Billy Zane in there for a little bit, and he was, you know, the heartthrob back in the day and had to be in the film. But one that really fucks with people that they don't realize that this is him is Stephen Lang, the guy from Avatar and Don't Breathe, is in this film. And it's hard to recognize him in this fucking movie because of his appearance. But he plays the titular protagonist bad guy, Ike Clanton. So he's definitely one that if you watch it, you'd be kind of like, no. But, I mean, all in all, you have such a huge fucking cast in this movie that is unreal. One thing that I really liked was you have Buck Taylor, who was Jack Johnson, Texas Jack Johnson.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I was like, who?
Do you remember him in Yellowstone? He was the old man that died on the cattle drive.
That's where my mind went, was that guy.
Yep.
But I was just like, I can't remember the name, so I'm just going to say no.
As soon as I saw him on the show, I was like, holy fuck, hell yeah. Because, I mean, I fucking love Tombstone.
Yeah. I like Tombstone too, man, but you're like, you know every actor in the damn movie.
I do, and it's funny. Even the guy who played, he was in Yellowstone as well. God, he was the old man ranch hand that was next to Rip a lot. I can't remember his name. Forey J. Smith. He was Pony Deal in Tombstone. He was actually in Tombstone as well. But back to Tombstone. This movie is one of my absolute favorites, and I gotta say, this is my first Western when I was a kid. I watched it as a kid, and I fucking loved it.
It was my first Western with you. Got me into Westerns.
Yeah, it was, because I loved it so much. I watched it with
It was my first movie with you.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, it really was. Because I remember watching it with my grandpa, and I just knew that he liked it. I didn't really know what was going on in the film. I thought it was kind of cool, just cowboys and shit.
Yeah.
But then as I got older, I started really liking it. And so it became one of my comfort films. Like, I really enjoyed it to where every time when I moved somewhere, because my family moved a lot. We moved around all the time. And we had every place that we'd go to, if I had the chance, I would sit down and watch Tombstone when we first move in. Like after packing and everything like that, okay, I'm going to watch Tombstone.
Yeah, it settled you.
Yeah, and now it's one that I still do to this day, like no matter where I moved. And
you do that on vacation too, if you haven't ever noticed.
I have.
When we put a movie on to go to sleep or something, you will pick Tombstone.
Yeah, it's just one of those movies that is just right for me. I really do enjoy this film. And yeah, I mean, like when me and you first got together, I just happened to be down in my room watching it, and you came over, and I was halfway through the fucking film, and you were just like, what the fuck is this? And keep in mind, this movie is 2 hours and 14 minutes long, so I was already halfway through it.
You were an hour into the damn thing.
Yeah, and you're just like, I've never seen this. I was like, you've never seen Tombstone? You're like, nope. I was like, well, I'm going to start this over, and I did. I started it right over, and me and you watched it for your first time of it, and that's
when you knew you were gonna marry me.
Well, that's when
when it was over, I was like, I love that. That was a good movie. You're like, yeah, I'm marrying her.
Well, that's when you got to find your silver fox crush, old Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott for sure. I was just like, Sam Elliott, man, I'll marry him. And then, of course, Doc Holliday, Val Kilmer. Mm-hmm. And you're like, he was a Batman, right? And I was like obsessed with Batman at the time. And I was like, that was the best movie you could have ever made. Telling me that the guy I had a crush on in the movie was actually a Batman one time.
Yep.
And I was just like, that's so cool.
So in Tombstone, it is really, really well written. It is very well done. They did go through 2 directors making this film, but an actual third director, I would say, because Kurt Russell really kind of took over this project and wanted to make it as genuine and as fun and interesting as he could to give a great film that we have. And I say it's worth it. I mean, he took out his own money to put into this film to build sets and stuff like that to make it as a masterpiece as it is.
Yeah, but he wasn't a credited director.
No, he wasn't credited, but he was definitely behind the scenes working with both directors and helping change the script and dialogue and stuff like that, or like helping the other actors of like, hey, what if we did this? And so Kurt Russell really did show a lot of great managing skills to bring this film out, and I think that he did not get enough credit that he should have for the work that he did in this film.
He tried his hardest to make it authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, like the creek scene.
Yeah, the creek scene was one that one director actually wanted to get rid of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was like, I don't really want this. It's not that.
It sounds implausible. It's probably a tall tale or something. But
Mm-hmm.
but Kurt Russell was like, no, this is actually one of the one things that actually is true. Like, I know it is.
Yes, because Kurt was actually very well close to the Earp family.
Yeah.
And they were passing down the stories and journals and stuff that they had.
Yeah, it wasn't just a story, though. There was people at that river who had seen it that day. So this was told by many people who had been there that day. So it was written down. It was historical facts at that point.
Not only was he getting it from the Earps, but it was also documented from other people in history and shit like that.
Yeah, there were other marshals there besides him.
And so that was actually the one scene that Kurt Russell fought hard for, and it's one of the most famous scenes out of the film. Mm-hmm. And not only for him taking on Curly Bill Brossus and killing him and doing this like amazing fucking
untouchable
miracle,
man, because there was tons of cowboys shooting at him that day, and not a bullet hit him.
Yep, and but like the scene itself is more like, that was very captivating, and it's a great scene. But Val Kilmer really stole this movie.
He really did. Like, that's one of the major facts, is that like he was not a main character, but he was the main character. Like he gave that presence when he was on set.
Oh yeah, like what's so great is Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, Michael Behan. These guys all came together, and just really, when they were on screen, you were locked in on them. Like they had your attention, and that was what made this movie so great. And Val Kilmer, he really didn't have a whole lot of screen time, which is so crazy. He didn't have that much screen time, but yet whenever he was on screen, he would...
Yeah, because he was in bouts of sickness during all of this, and so during the movie they tried to capture that, and so he would be off screen a lot because he would be away being sick in a hospital at the time.
Mm-hmm. Now, the one thing that this movie doesn't... okay, going back to the creek real quick. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Going back to the creek. Not only did him missing all the bullets killing Curly Bill, but the scene itself became famous because of Doc Holliday. And it was because of the whole, what are you doing this for, Doc? Well, Wyatt was my friend. And, well, I got tons of friends. I don't. It's now become a TikTok sound. And
man, yeah, freaking Doc Holliday had a lot of famous quotes, man. A lot of people, love the things he had to say. He was...
Mm-hmm. Oh, he really did, but... He also, Val Kilmer really did bring that whole atmosphere of, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, I already know I'm very smart. I know I'm one of the best gunslingers, if not the best. And I'm dying. So what the fuck do I have to lose? And he brings that so much around.
And I'm sure he did so much research when he thought about that too, you know?
Oh, yeah. But I love the undying loyalty to Wyatt Earp. Mm-hmm. And... he extended that to his brothers, because he's like, you are my best friend, you are my brother, your family's my family. But if it was just the brothers that were in town, he probably would have been like, I don't know.
It's not really my fight.
Yeah, but he would have still been like, well, I got to help you out because you're my brother's best friend, or you're my best friend's brother.
He knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Wyatt would have asked it of him.
Oh, yeah. And that was the thing, though, is... Val Kilmer and Kurt Russell doing this was like, you felt that their friendship was genuine. It was not scripted, or it felt forced or pushed or any of that. It felt genuine, and
they felt like they had been through a lot together.
Mm-hmm. And that like, how did they get their looks? That's something that I want to know as an actor.
How do actors do that? It's a look that you give somebody that you have years of friendship and understanding between the two of you, but like, actors have to act that. So how do they act it without the actual feeling behind it? Now,
I know that some actors sit there and say, oh, well, we spend as much time as we can offset so we can have that bond, and which is great, I get that, but to be your goofy self and then say action, and then you just got that fucking 1,000-yard stare, like you're seeing through somebody and shit, like that's not an easy thing to pull off. And Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer, they both just like nail the coffin when they look at you.
They really do. Speaking of Val Kilmer, it almost wasn't Val Kilmer that played Doc Holliday.
Who was it supposed to be?
It was supposed to be William Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe as Doc Holliday. I don't know about that one. I really don't.
I think he would have done a great job. We know he can be funny at times.
Oh, I know he can be very funny, but...
And I know he can be serious.
Do not get me wrong, people. I absolutely love Willem Dafoe. Honestly, if I was to sit down and be forced to watch the fucking Death Note Netflix film, it would only be fucking seeing Willem Dafoe as Ryuk. Other than that, I don't give a fuck to see that film. But I do love Willem Dafoe. I've loved a lot of his work that he's done. I'm not saying everything was masterpieces. We're just
really glad it was Val Kilmer. We got you.
Yeah, but Val Kilmer really kind of caught everybody by surprise with this. And it was a role that he's a very deep method actor. Even when he did John Morrison in the movie The Doors about John Morrison, the lead guitarist overheard him singing John Morrison's songs, and he did it so fucking well, like practicing how to sing like him, that even the lead guitarist was like, shit, I thought that was John, and John's dead. Like, he really was impressed with it. So Val Kilmer being Doc Holliday, yeah, it was really surprising, but honestly, seeing...
He's a chameleon of an actor.
Yeah, seeing what he can do is just one of those. It's not that surprising,
maybe
but
Val
it is.
Kilmer's a witch and he was channeling their ghosts.
Probably. So let's go into like the overall story of it, though, is based on a real story, a real actual event. It's not one that is like, oh, well, we added this here, we added that there. It's a real deal, but it was one of those that when they did it, they, as you said, were trying to make it entertaining and make it fun, but also fill in a lot of the stuff. So the movie is only 2 hours long, but you got to think this is probably going on around almost a year and a half time frame. Of what's happening.
Yeah, that's something that the movie could have been a little clearer on. Because I had to watch it a few times before I realized the time gaps.
Yeah, this wasn't all just like
the movie
happened.
is so fast paced. Like they cut those time gaps so well to keep the movie going, obviously, that you feel like it's all happening quickly. But in real life, it was actually over the span of a year, like you said.
Yeah, about a year and a half, almost 2 years, if anything. Because and the biggest way you could tell is when Curly Bill Brosas first leaves Tombstone and Kurt Russell starts his manhunt. And then the creek scene, when you see Curly Bill see him again, he's like, hey, Wyatt, how the hell are you? Like, because he hasn't seen him in so long.
It's been a minute since they've seen each other.
So that there tells you that this has been a minute. Like, and another thing that people should understand is when you watch this movie, it takes a while for a horse to get to a destination. So it's not like, yeah, you see them running all the time in the film, but you can't run your horse that hard. It will literally die.
It's a living thing.
Yeah, so, I mean, you could probably travel a good ways on horse without, like, if you're not doing a cattle drive or any of that shit, just riding your horse, you probably could ride a good, I want to say 40 miles, and that's pushing it. But I'm not a fucking...
If the horse is running?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm not a horse fucking expert, but you got to think, it takes a while. So they're doing this all on horseback, and it's one of those that the movie is just not... It doesn't really help with that because it's in the desert. So you don't get a spring, fall, or winter.
Yeah.
So you kind of just have to go off of what everybody else is doing and take in consideration their transportation and all that kind of shit.
If you think about it, like, if you want to do the time gaps, anytime they do a montage, just imagine it's been a few months since the beginning of the montage.
I was going to say like 2 to 3 months. Yeah,
every montage is a few months. 2 to 3 months, every montage. And then if you do it that way, it all makes sense. Yep.
And it was really cool because... Like, there's already a movie that came out. It came out right after Tombstone of our boy Kevin Costner, who did his own story about Wyatt Earp, and it's mainly not even about Tombstone. It's more of his times at Dodge City and stuff like that. Over here in Kansas, where he became a marshal and shit.
Yeah.
Really good. Really good. If you want to know what Wyatt Earp was like before Tombstone and stuff like that,
Yeah, if you
this
watch
movie
Tombstone,
is great.
If you watch Tombstone and you fall in love with Wyatt Earp's character, and you want to know what else he'd been up to in his life besides just Tombstone, then you go check out the movie Wyatt.
Yeah, because every time in Tombstone, when they like Wyatt Earp, Dodge City, like, so that Kevin Costner's film Wyatt Earp will explain what happened.
Yeah, because when you go to Wyatt
City.
Earp, he's already, or when you go to Tombstone, the movie Tombstone, he's already retired.
Yeah, he's done. He
He didn't want to be a marshal anymore. He was done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, could you imagine just being 35 years old and saying, I retire, I'm done with that, and I just want to go make some money? And
He was only 35.
I think he was like 35. He wasn't that old. Let me look it up. But like, just to think, like back then, you could be pretty young to fuck. If you had a successful career, you could have just retired. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, let's see. Wyatt Berry. Okay. Wyatt Berry Stapp Earp. March 19th, 1848 through January 13th, 1929. Damn, he actually lived a long time. Was a deputy U.S. Marshal, deputy sheriff, and deputy town marshal in the Old West. In Tombstone, Arizona Territory, Earp took a part in the gunfight near the OK Corral, during which lawman killed 3 outlaws. Earp was about age 42 so he was about 42 years old when he was in Tombstone at the OK Corral shooting. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, even still, 41, 42 years old to say, yeah, I'm retired, I'm good. That's fucking, that's young. I mean, that's still a lot of life to live. That's pretty fucking nice. That's all I was trying to mean. But, like, so to progress with what we were talking about with the film, I'm telling you should watch it. It is so much fun. It's a...
Oh, yeah, I agree. I love the movie. I think everyone should give it a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you don't really like Westerns that much, or you don't think you would like Westerns, at least say you watched Tombstone, you know? At least tell me you watched Tombstone.
Yeah, I mean, Tombstone is one of those films that, like you said, if you're not a Western fan, it is okay. You could still watch it. Like, I'm not a huge sci-fi fan, but I've watched all the Aliens because they're great.
Yeah, and you gotta say you watched Aliens.
Yeah, I mean...
how are you supposed to know if you like sci-fi movies or not if you haven't watched all the Aliens?
Exactly, so...
How are you supposed to know you don't like Westerns if you haven't watched Tombstone?
And it's one of those that you don't have to be a fan, but it's such a masterful film that it's one that has to be on your list. If you're a movie buff, it has to be on your list because it's just so well. The scenery shots are amazing. The dialogue is fucking awesome because
the dialogue is like, if you just want like some immaculate movie quotes, just watch the movie for that alone.
It is probably one of the most quotable movies to come out of the 90s.
My like for any occasion, romantic, like spiteful, funny, like scary, you know, like And Hill's Coming With Me. Like, that's some good fucking lines. Any kind of line from that damn movie.
How you were saying romantic of like, who's that tall glass of water?
The whole speech right there.
Notice the tall lean silhouette. Yeah,
that one.
So yeah, I mean, there's so many fucking quotable lines from this film, and the most quotable ones are usually Val Kilmer's, which he just delivers those one-liners so well. It's unreal. Yeah. The one line that everybody does get confused that he did kind of tweak and he shouldn't have, but he wanted to on his own, was he said, "I am your Huckleberry."
I'll be your Huckleberry.
I'll be your Huckleberry, but it's actually I'll be your Huckleburr.
Bearer.
Burr.
You cannot pronounce that word.
Burr. No, I can't.
Burr. Stupid.
Give me my burr. I'll be your Huckleburr.
Bearer.
Burr. That's what I said.
I'm gonna hit you.
All right, so, but that's what he was supposed to say.
It's like a pallbearer.
Yeah, But he changed it as a, what was it, a joke or some shit that he was
I
just...
can't remember why he did it, but
He changed it for some reason, but it was... And that's where a lot of people are just doing his quote, but the actual...
Yeah.
The actual Huckleberry is...
was the true line that Doc Holliday said.
Because
I'll
it
be
was
your
to...
Huckleberry, because I will carry you to your I will carry you to your grave.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was supposed to be. But
And one of his most, like, ones that he for sure said that's, like, written down in history is the, "You're a daisy if you do."
Mm-hmm.
Which was, I know it sounds funny now, but it was a very big threat back then. Because daisies were what you laid on your grave, on a loved one's grave. It's what grew in graveyards. It's the flower that grew on people's graves.
Yeah.
So if you went up against Doc Holliday, all you'd be was a daisy, because you'd be pushing up daisies, you know.
Yeah,
Like your
such
body.
a smooth
this,
line.
This is the smoothest fucking line, man. I can't imagine an old cowboy back in the day saying shit like that and not shaking in your fucking boots, man.
That would be that he was so good and so smart to know that if you can get in someone's head,
yeah,
you had the whole fucking thing.
Yes, if you could just shake them, just shake them up a little bit mentally, they'd never be able to pull a gun as fast as you.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like that is why he was as fast as he was, is because he got into his...
Because a lot of times they'd be so in their head and they would go to draw and
they'd be like...
They'd fidget or they'd get stuck or something.
Trying to figure out what he just fucking said, you know? Like, what was that supposed to mean? You know? They're just thinking, what does that mean?
Yep.
What does that mean?
Yeah, and what it does is it sends you into a frenzy of like, fuck, I'm about to die. And he's more of like, I don't give a shit. I'm dying anyways.
Yeah, he was already dying. He didn't give a shit. and like people would realize that too after a while, was that, my God, he's already a dead man. So what does he fucking care?
So let's go on to how accurate this film is. So what I was saying earlier about Michael Behan's character, Johnny Ringo. I got Johnny Ringo out of the hat of my teacher had us draw. And a couple of everybody in class had a character from the film, so I got Johnny Ringo, the counterpart to fucking Doc Holliday, and I was so fucking happy about that because I was like, of course I wanted Doc Holliday and I wanted Wyatt Earp, but I kind of already knew some stuff about them, so it kind of gave me an advantage, but I didn't know much about Johnny Ringo. And I started doing some research in it. In the movie, it portrays him as a very smart, intellectual person who is a very deadly gunslinger. And a guy who is ruthless, who does not give a shit about life and all this and that. Well, when I was doing my research, I actually seen that was true. He was just like Doc Holliday in a lot of ways, except the opposite side of the fence, where Doc Holliday grew up in a very nice way or nice lifestyle and shit, and just fell into that lifestyle after he found out he was dying, uncompared to Johnny Ringo, who grew up in a very bad area and grabbed any book he could to learn to read and become very well educated to get away from that stigma, but he could not outrun his fucking past, and that's where he became just ruthless and all this and that. So the movie does portray that very fucking well, and especially in the scene where Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo finally meet for the first time. Those two really do show how smart these two guys were back in the day. Now, the scene that I'm talking about that really showed how accurate this is was the Johnny Ringo challenging Wyatt Earp to a gun duel. And it was supposed to be Wyatt Earp that shows up, but it ended up being Doc Holliday in the film. And they get into a gunfight, right? So the gunfight happens. There was a shot to Johnny Ringo's head. Johnny Ringo had his gun out, fires his pistol as he's stumbling around dying and falls next to an oak tree. And then that's when Doc Holliday places a badge on his chest, right? That was 95% real, accurate to what is the legend of Johnny Ringo. Johnny Ringo died in the exact same way, except no one knows if it was Holliday or
people just came across his body.
Yes, they came across his body by a tall oak tree, just like the movie, with the sheriff badge on it, just like the movie, with a bullet head and a bullet wound to his head, like the movie, and a bullet missing from his gun. Now they say they don't know if it was Earp, Holliday, or suicide. They don't know. But that's how they found him. And the movie does portray it that way. They just give you Doc Holliday because that really is what makes more sense.
Too bad they can't dig him up and like do bullet analysis and see if it was from his own gun or not.
It would be really fucking hard because
they could at least rule out suicide.
Yeah, but they'd have to get his actual gun. They would have to get all and the thing is though is if the gun's been buried with him and all that kind of like if there's any tampering to the gun, it could actually change a lot of the proof that it was him that did it. So it's just one of those. It's going to be speculated throughout history. No one's never going to really know.
No one's ever going to know. Yeah.
But the movie does do that fucking justice. That's why I say 95% because there's that Val Kilmer doing the shooting when we don't really know. But after that, I heard all the other kids give their fucking reports on each character, and everybody in our classroom was so shocked and impressed of how accurate this fucking film was to the characters that we had to do researches on. We were just like, holy shit, man.
You had to do the research before the movie.
Oh, we had to do the research during the movie. Oh. So we would spend a day watching it, and then the rest of the week researching. Then next week, do some more watching. Then, because we had, what was it, like 45-minute classes and shit. So we had to do basically a month's worth of research for this movie that we got to watch once a week. And we were so impressed at how well this came together, and it was just like, wow, this is one of the most accurate fucking films I've ever seen. It made me love it even more because I already loved it whenever I was in school. So I was like, oh fuck yeah, I get to watch one of my favorite movies. Well, you guys got to do a report on it. I got to what? Fuck. But all in all, it was so cool to see that extraness of why I love this film. It what made me love it even more. And it gave me something to continue on telling people, like how I just did about the Johnny Ringo thing. So that's how accurate the film is. The star-studded cast is amazing. The storyline, the storytelling is great. The scenery is absolutely
stole
awesome.
The show.
Yeah, you got guys that when they're on screen, they're capturing you right then and there. All in all, this movie is a 9.5 for me. I mean, and that's really. There's a few minute things that I would say, I wouldn't do here or there, but I mean that's literally minute. That does not take away from the film at all. But 9.5, 9 3/4, if I really want to go that way. But that's where I sit on this. Where do you sit, Sage?
Solid 9 for sure. Only because there's at least 1 point off for the things they've taken out of the history.
Mm-hmm.
There are 9 Earps, not just the 3 brothers that were in the movie.
Yes.
There were 9 Earps, and they were all in town because they were trying to run a casino together as a family.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but for some reason they decided not to use the other 6 Earps that were there.
I think it would have messed up the pacing.
It would have been, there would have been too many people. I understand.
Because you already have so many that you're trying to follow.
Yeah, there's already so many characters you have to follow. so throwing in 6 more Earps and their spouses would have been difficult.
Yeah, because the Earp family was a big thing.
It was a big family. That's why it's still around to this day. Mm-hmm. Earps are still everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because not only were there 9 siblings all together, but they were all married and they all had kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a good chance that if you meet an Earp, they're related to the famous Earps.
Yes. Okay. And my other thing that takes off the rest of the point is I didn't like the wives' portrayals.
Oh, yeah.
The way they portrayed the wives. Virgil.
Yeah,
Allie. Yeah, Allie was a big character.
Mm-hmm.
Like in real life. You know that she was a... Well, of course, she was married to an Earp. So he made her a gunslinger.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, well, if she's going to be a wife of an Earp, she better be good with a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Wyatt didn't want anything like that with his wife, so he didn't teach her anything, but they didn't have a very good relationship, and I really didn't like her, but...
Yeah, Maddie.
But I know they didn't want to hurt the audience too much, but Maddie was a lot farther gone in real life than she was portrayed in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in the movies, you almost felt for her, you know? You're also like, well, if Wyatt just paid her a little more attention, maybe she wouldn't be this way. By the time they actually got the Tombstone, Maddie was half brain gone.
Yeah, she was
Like,
so
she was-
addicted
Yeah,
to
she was so
laudanum.
addicted that it had poisoned half her brain at that point. She was, even if she'd gotten off the drug, she would have been disabled, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And her dying, like, just about 4 months after they moved out of Tombstone,
Yeah.
her accidentally overdosing,
Mm-hmm.
like, that wasn't surprising to me at all.
Right, yeah, because in the movie you had Maddie, then you had Allie, and then you had Louisa, who was Morgan's wife in the film. And
And I think after Morgan died that she did just kind of, like, run off from the Earp family, blaming them.
could have. I don't know. I gotta know now.
I don't know.
But the actual scene where you see them at the train station, they're all together. There's the Earp family did something similar of that nature. They actually all went together and got a family portrait done in Tombstone, and that's one thing that I knew that they have hanging up at their house to show that the whole family was there.
Yeah.
Oh.
And of course, they probably still own that. They all probably still owned the gambling parlor there.
Oh, yeah, probably. So how you were talking about Allie Earp, you know, she is played by Paula Malcolmson. She was the mistress in Sons of Anarchy when they go to Ireland.
The mom?
Yeah.
Oh my God! No way.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep, I know, right? But like I said, there's so many fucking actors in here that when you look back and watch this film, they hadn't been... Like, you had your main guys that were big, but then all these other actors that you're seeing were not big yet. They were still working their way up and all this and that, to where if you see them nowadays, you're like, oh man, that's so fucking cool. I know who that is. Back then, they weren't. And so you see them in this film, and you're just kind of like, hey... you know, so it's really cool to see, like
what I just did with Allie.
Yeah, I mean, hell, do you know fucking Sylvester Stallone's brothers in this movie?
Yes, you've told me that.
Yep,
Yeah.
he was Ed Bailey.
Yeah.
What, Ed Bailey? If we weren't friends, I don't think I could bear it.
Yeah, you told me that before.
The guy that Doc Holliday first stabs, that's Frank Stallone. But all in all, this film is, like I said, a absolute classic as a cinematic film, and historically it is really well. It does tell you what happened.
It's entertaining, historically accurate, just fucking good ass fucking story.
Oh yeah,
I think anyone who likes movies isn't, like you said, if you're a movie buff and you haven't seen Tombstone, it better be on your list immediately, because it's a good movie and it's worth the watch.
And if you're a kid that's sitting here trying to scroll through all the streaming apps and like, oh, I've seen this, dude, go back and check this film out.
Go back and check out
It might
old
actually
films.
open your fucking eyes up to seeing that some of the older films are pretty fucking good if you gave them a chance. So if you think you've ran out of things to watch, we got some more shit for you. Other than that, thank you guys so much. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this. Please let us know down below by leaving that thumbs up or a comment of who's your favorite character, who's your favorite actor,
what's your favorite scene.
Yeah, favorite scene, favorite quote line. Give us something that you really loved about Tombstone down below, and we would love to hear from you. Other than that, I'm kind of good. I'm about ready to go watch this again.
Yeah, I'm just like, let's go watch Tombstone.
So, other than that, guys, thank you so much. Keep those pistols loaded and watch your backs, and just fucking live life.
Pew pew.